love my iPad. I got my first iPad as a gift from my mom for high school graduation. When I opened it, I was so excited, but at the same time, not entirely sure if I would have a use for it. And my mom let me make the decision if I want to hold on to it or go exchange it for the iPhone 5. I held on to the iPad mini, the first generation iPad mini, and I'm so glad that I did because since then, my love for the iPad has grown by leaps and bounds. And not only just my love for this piece of technology, but also how I use it. And I think an iPad is an often overlooked, underrated, and questioned piece of technology that in 2020, I feel like that shouldn't be the case. I feel like everybody should be respecting the iPad in 2020, but I still hear that conversation of, is an iPad worth it? So in this video, I want to tell you why I think an iPad is still a great purchase in 2020. Now, since the iPad came out in 2010, there have been over 19 different versions of the iPad, aside from like the size differences of the Pros and such, and up to 7 different generations of a single model. Now, with that being said, there are a lot of iPads to choose from. There's actually 4 current models available right now, so if you're looking to get an iPad, there's probably a perfect one out there for you. But that's not what this video is about, making sure you're choosing the right iPad. No. This video is more so talking about the general iPad and why I think that you should have one. Now, I understand not everybody needs an iPad or wants an iPad, so this is mainly for those people that are like,
should I get an iPad? I was like thinking about it, but I don't think I'd have any use.
I want to talk about all the things that I use my iPad for and the pros and cons in general of the iPad. Now, let's go ahead and get started with those cons because, first of all, I've got a pretty short cons list, but let's get that stuff out of the way so you know up top what my grievances are with the iPad. Now, when it comes to the cons of the iPad, I couldn't come up with that many, but the few cons that I have are 1, there are some app limitations when it comes to using your iPad. 2, the case options are also limited. And 3, sometimes it can just be a little too big. Now, the last 2 are definitely more arbitrary. Case options, big frickin' whoop. This is fine, it protects it. And when it comes to the iPad being too big, I think I was spoiled with having an iPad mini at first because that thing would fit in like my smallest purse. It was easy, and now my 10.5-inch iPad Pro is definitely bigger. However, this is still substantially smaller than my MacBook Pro. It may be tall, but it's still sleek and it's really light, so it's not actually like that big. But there's no way in hell I could do the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. Like, no way. No way. Now, when it comes to like the serious limitation, it's the apps. I think the reason why I think of it as a limitation is because the iPad is so close to a computer, but like barely just not there. An iPad can do a lot of computing things. I can write documents, I can do online searching, I can read emails, edit photos, edit movies in iMovie on iPad. It's definitely no Final Cut Pro, and that's like my issue, is that there's no Final Cut Pro on the iPad. But honestly, when I think about it, Final Cut Pro on my iPad would not even compare to Final Cut Pro on my 15-inch, 16 gigabytes of RAM MacBook Pro. Even if there was Final Cut Pro on the iPad, I don't know if I would be happy with the results it would give me. I don't know, I feel like that's a conversation I hear a lot is, well, the iPad can't do everything. And I think that's the thing about the iPad is that it can't do everything, but nobody ever said that it could do literally everything. I think it can do the basics of everything, as well as some of its own stuff that the other devices might not be able to do as well. With the introduction of iPadOS that came out in fall of 2019, as well as the update to iPadOS that happened earlier this year where you can connect a mouse and have like a cursor. So you can have a mouse and a keyboard and then your iPad, and it looks like a computer setup, but it's just like not there. And all of those things really bridge that gap between iPad and computer. However, that gap is still there. I think it's just something that needs to be thought about when you're considering what kind of purchase you want to make. If you're somebody who does not have a computer or an iPad and you're looking at getting one of those two, you need to think about the fact that a computer is a computer and an iPad is not a computer, but it can do a lot of things a computer can do, if that makes sense. So mainly, like, I feel like the issue is that an iPad is still a mobile device, and even though iPadOS has changed the look of the iPad to where it doesn't mirror the iPhone exactly, it's still a mobile device. It still runs off of mobile apps. And yes, there are some iPad only apps and a lot more advanced things to be able to take advantage of all the technology packed in this little form factor. But it's still not a computer, and sometimes I need to remind myself of that. Now let's talk pros. iPad pros. See what I did there? Because it's called the iPad. You got it. You got it. I've got pros And let me just read the list and then we'll break it down.
Okay, the grammar on what I said was not exactly great. The pros of the things you can do. These are things you can do with the iPad, abilities the iPad has, things I like about the iPad. Let's just leave it at that.
Taking notes, watching content, editing, graphic design, reading books, the Apple Pencil, and of course, iPad OS. Those are just some of the pros, and yeah, it's not a super long list because I think it really also depends on the person and like what you're specifically doing, because a graphic designer's pros are going to be different than a student's pros. So it's gonna kind of vary per person. However, I think overall, the general pros are the versatility of the iPad. Now, one of the things I love about this freaking iPad is the Apple Pencil, the capabilities with the Apple Pencil. I have the first generation Apple Pencil. I got it with the first generation iPad Pro, and now I've moved on to the 10.5 inch. It's still compatible. This thing is great. Whether you're note-taking, whether you're an artist, whether you are doing graphic design, like this is a great piece of technology that pairs so nicely with the iPad Pro. I wish the Apple Pencil would have come out sooner in my college career because this whole setup changed the game. Now, there were many days in my college education. Before I had the iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil, it was just me and my iPad mini ruling the world. I had my iPad mini with me every day. I got a little Bluetooth keyboard that was like 50 or 60 bucks, and I was able to put my textbook for my math class. It was actually cheaper by renting it digitally. When I was on my breaks, I could work on papers I had to write. I was able to put scripts on my iPad and mark them up in Notability just using my finger. And then obviously the Apple Pencil came and made everything just so much easier and nicer looking and more precise. But as a student, an iPad is just like not a must-have because you can obviously get it done without it. However, it made everything so much better. And I think students are one of the target demographics of the iPad. I think the other target demo are artists slash designers slash creatives. Obviously, the Apple Pencil, you watch any Apple Pencil ad and it's gonna have some like drawing of some beautiful artwork, and you can create beautiful things. There's an app called Procreate, which gives you tons of different brushes, as what they're calling them. They have pencils, they have rollers, they have markers, and then these weird prints and patterns, and that's what I use to make a lot of my graphic design for my YouTube channel, and my doodles that I put on my pictures on Instagram, and some of my titles and my thumbnails I create on my iPad in Procreate. So there's tons of different options for the creative when it comes to the iPad. Not only with just like the Apple Pencil, but the different apps that are out there. Also with designers, you've got graphic design apps, you've got Adobe Suite applications. I personally use Pixelmator, which I like to call the poor man's Photoshop. I've also seen things like architectural design apps for the iPad. I've heard of people who were track designer people. I can't even remember the story, but I remember this guy and he was just saying how he like worked on trains and like there was an iPad app that was made for trains. Oh my gosh, pilots! They use iPads. Like a pilot or a flight attendant, they use iPads to put all their material on so they don't have to wheel around like a freaking wheelbarrow of 100 books and then things get updated easier. I'm getting worked up. I need to calm down. The main thing I wanted to showcase is the versatility of the iPad. When you're watching this video and you're somebody who might be considering or thinking like, would an iPad be good for me? Think of the possibilities. The iPad is a different interface that sometimes makes those programs and experiences a lot better. Now, something that I mentioned in my list of pros for the iPad is iPad OS. And I would more so translate that into the iPad OS as well as the ecosystem within Apple that connects all of your devices together. So for instance, with the Mac and the iPad, there's this feature called Sidecar, where you can essentially use your iPad as a secondary display for your Mac. Another thing that I just recently discovered, and that's another thing, I'm constantly discovering things with this piece of technology, is that you can send a window to your iPad. So for instance, sometimes I wish I had like a Wacom tablet to be able to be a little bit more detailed or not have to use my mouse to make certain edges, but be able to like draw it in. And with this Sidecar feature, which is relatively new, mind you, I can send that program to my iPad, and instead of using my mouse to make corrections, I can use an Apple Pencil like it's a mouse. There's a picture that I was working on, which I'll throw up on screen, that I was able to get a lot more detailed and fine-tuned and kind of how I wanted it because of the precision of being able to use a screen where I could blow it up really big and kind of like put my face against it like I was drawing something and use the Apple Pencil to make it really precise. That's another thing that I just love about the iPad. I would say overall, the iPad is a really versatile device. And if you're looking for something that can do a lot of things pretty well, the iPad is your guy. Now, if you had to choose between watching content on a 5.5-inch iPhone screen or a 10.5-inch iPad screen, which one are you gonna choose? I feel like you're gonna choose the bigger one. Download some movies before you go on a flight. Oh my, like literally, I will not take a flight without my iPad. Like it's just, I can read, I can watch a movie, I can draw, it can do everything. Not technically everything, but you get what I mean. I feel like at this point, I've said all I can say to convince you why an iPad is a great choice. But I guess I wanted this video to serve as a reminder that the iPad is more than just a YouTube playing device. And honestly, if you want it to be just a YouTube playing device, like, that's cool. There's a lot to this thing that I feel like I have to remind myself that it can do, that it has the ability to do. And I'm so grateful to think back to that day 7 years ago, because yes, I graduated high school 7 years ago. I hate thinking about that too. And I'm just so grateful that my mom gave me my first iPad and that, oh my God, that I kept it over the iPhone 5. I remember her saying, yeah, there's the new iPhones if you want to get that. And I was kind of like, I mean, a new iPhone sounds nice, but like the iPhone 5 and the iPad mini was just the better choice all around. And it was great, and it changed things forever. My YouTube channel started on my iPad mini. The possibilities are endless. The adapters, the apps, the accessories you can get with this thing, they're great. This was just the Annelies Loves iPad show, and I just wanted to talk about why I love this guy. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and if you're somebody who's on the fence about getting an iPad, I hope this video helped give you a little bit of insight on whether it would be a good choice for you in general. But yeah, this was just a silly little video with me talking about one of my favorite pieces of technology and why I think it could become one of your favorite pieces too. An iPad is an excellent buy. It's an excellent buy in 2020. I appreciate you spending your time with me. I hope you had a good time while you were here. Okay, I ended the video, but then I forgot a super important announcement. So I've added a section to the end screen of all my videos called the donation station. Well, it'll be all my videos moving forward. And what this donation station is it's a place where I'm going to put charities that I recommend you looking into, organizations that you should donate to. There's a lot going on in our world right now. We've got the Black Lives Matter movement, we've got the global pandemic still going on, and there's a lot of great, wonderful organizations who are doing good things. They're helping people, they're fighting for change, and they need funding. So if you're out there looking for a place to donate to, I really recommend checking out the donation station. There will be a section in the description of all my videos from now on of what the donation station is. If you didn't see it in the description, comment on the video and let me know, because that means I just forgot. But it will always be at the end, and I'll put the website or the Instagram handle, and of course the charity or organization's name, so you can go do your own research and see if that's a place. I mean, I recommend it, but if that's a place that you want to donate your money to. So anyways, that's just that. I hope you enjoyed that little feature. Hope it helps you do some good in the world. Thanks for watching. Stay beautiful, have a marvelous day, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye!